Hello, Mama friends. Welcome back to the Mama Gets It Done podcast. This week, we're talking all about stress and overwhelm and how we can make that a little bit better. We've got some really good tips. You're going to love it. So stick around. Are you ready to be more productive in your home and say goodbye to the dreaded mom guilt associated with a messy house and chaotic days? Hey, my name's Rachel, and the Mama Gets It Done podcast is for the everyday mom. Yes, even those hot mess moms who just need a little grace and a few tips for getting more done in your day. If you're ready to figure out how to stop hating cooking every night, how to give chaotic days a little more structure, and how to find more time for you in this crazy mom life, then you are in the right place. Hello, Mama friends. All right, today we are jumping into some ways that we can help manage and to take away from the overwhelm and the stress that seems to come directly with motherhood, right? I don't know about you, but I feel like every single day I'm doing like a million and one things, and the mental load of motherhood is just massive. If you don't know what mental load is, I'm going to touch on that here for just a minute because it's very important and goes hand in hand with the overwhelm and the stress and all the things that we're going to be talking about today. So do you have like a running list of things that's going through your head like all the time? I mean, it can be like so crazy, right? We're all overwhelmed at some point or another in our lives, right? But it's when you constantly feel overwhelmed that you can really it can really get to you and you can feel like a major burnout coming. Your mental load directly affects your overwhelm and your motivation to get things done. So what is the mental load exactly that I'm talking about? The mental load is like all the things you carry with you that you're trying to remember and decide on and manage inside of your brain. So like what contributes to that mental load is going to be things like remembering a random appointment and remembering your to-do list for the day. And then that one thing that the teacher requested that you bring in on Friday or send with your kid on Friday. And then also thinking about the doctor's appointment you made for you and the one you need to make for your kid. And then the fact that you need to clean that bathroom because it is gross. And then, also there's toys all over the living room. Don't forget about that too. And then, don't forget there's dinner. What are you having for dinner? And even like what you wear, what you're deciding to wear every day, every single decision you make and thing you think about really contributes to your mental load. And as a mom, we tend to have really big ones. We are the household managers almost. And so we manage a lot of this inside of our brain, whether it's good for us or not. So as this mental load gets bigger and bigger, things start to happen. You start to jump from task to task kind of erratically, right? You start to not be able to really think super rationally. You're super short fused and your stress levels just keep going up. Mental load and stress levels are just hand in hand, completely related. So as you're thinking about how to address your stress and your overwhelm in motherhood, I would definitely challenge you to think about all the things that are on your mental load and really think about what ways can you change that? What ways can you take decisions off your plate? What ways can you set things to the side? And I'm going to give you some tips right now of how I've decided that helps me. And we can tackle those together because honestly, right now, as I was going through and preparing for this podcast, I was like, oh my gosh, if this one is timed perfectly. I was literally just talking to my husband today about how overwhelmed I felt with everything that has been going on in our lives lately. We have torn our kitchen upside down. We're doing a complete renovation. We were both sick. We have had all kinds of just family stuff and starting school, and I launched the winter freezer meal guide last week, and it has been a lot, and the kids have been a little bit overwhelmed themselves, so they've been a little bit moody. And me as a mother today, I was just like, I am overwhelmed, and I was like, I'm at my limit. my daughter put my son in a bath without me knowing. She put him into a bath, and God love her, she was trying to be helpful, but he's 3, and I just don't feel good about that. Not very safe to do bath time without an adult. And so I caught them like halfway through getting it all set up, and there's water all over the floor. And my son has some mysterious goo on his face. I'm not sure. It was either Vaseline or it was like soap that had just been rubbed into his face. And I was like, this is it. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And like literally, there was so much water. It was insanity. And as I was preparing for this podcast after today was over, I was like, oh my gosh, how have I forgotten my own tips? So this is a reminder for all of us on some really good ways to like manage the overwhelm and the craziness that is coming with life right now. So let's jump right into these. This first tip that I'm talking about, you are not going to be surprised about whatsoever. And I'm going to tell you, use a block schedule. You guys have heard me preaching block schedules from the rooftops and the mountaintops. If you've missed it, I have a whole episode that talks about what a block schedule is and why it's beneficial. We'll talk about that a little bit here. But the big thing about block schedules is that instead of having your whole list of to-dos running through your head, you only have the couple of things that you need to do in that block on your head. And that is what can massively step back on, take you steps back on your overwhelm and your mental load. And I really think it's important for you to instill some kind of not overly like scheduled out schedule, which is why I suggest a block schedule, but some kind of schedule that really helps you narrow down the things you need to be doing and not be thinking about everything else in the world. Now, you still may worry about everything else in the world, but as you get practiced, it does get easier. If you're interested in really revamping your days, make sure to check out our Busy Mama Schedule Reset. It is awesome. We've got hundreds of mamas who have tried it out and we love it. So it's at the link in the show notes. We're going to talk about how to really look at your day, give it a reset, and make yourself more productive. Number 2 is going to be a lot about communication, and this is a hard one. Having some kind of family meeting between you and your family members or just you and your spouse, and really talking about your feelings and just saying, I am overwhelmed. Can we talk about this? Can we figure out a way to make it easier for all of us? And this is where we talk about like your schedule. A block schedule would be great. Talk about ways about divvying up chores. Specifically talk about things that you can divvy out to people. And even if it's something that they normally do, maybe make it clear, hey, I'm not going to ask you to do this anymore, because that puts an extra thing on me. Like literally simply just having to have it on your to-do list to ask somebody else to do something is adding to that mental load and that stress level. And while you may not think it, but you're going to be worried about it the whole time. Like, oh, remember to ask him to do that. Remember to ask him to do that. No, you're not going to have to worry about it. If we talk about it, we sit down, we talk about it beforehand. We talk about okay, this is your task that you're going to take on, even if it's already their task that they've been taking on, and just make it really clear. Okay, great. You're going to handle that. I'm hands off on that. I'm not going to ask you. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to be hands off on that. And obviously, things are not always going to go according to plan, right? My husband is in charge of laundry. And a lot of people are kind of shocked when they find out he's in charge of laundry, but that's how it works for us in our lives. That is one thing that when we sat down and talked about tasks and things that we could divvy up, that was one thing he could take on. So he absolutely has times where he falls behind on the laundry, and then that's when I'm like, okay, I start to get worried, right? But I haven't asked him before that. I haven't worried about the laundry up until the point where maybe it gets a little overwhelming for him. And then I'm like, then we'll sit down and we'll knock out the laundry together just so it's not so bad. But for the majority of the time, he gets the laundry done on his own and I never have to ask. He may ask me, hey, which load would you like me to do today? Because most of the time it's me saying, oh my gosh, I need this certain top or something like that. But really sitting down and having an open and honest conversation about your needs and everybody else's needs too, because maybe they're feeling the same way. And so making sure divvy out chores, make it to where you do not have to ask for these chores to be done. It's really important. Even if you put it on a chore chart and say, this is what's expected of you, just something. Now, obviously, with younger kids, this is going to be harder. A visual chore charts are really good for younger kids. So something they can see and not read, and just make it clear, like, hey, these are your things. Now, obviously, you're going to have to ask younger kids to do things. That's just part of being a parent. But as they're older and with your spouse, like, there is absolutely ways that we can divvy up household things so that it's off your plate and you're not thinking about it. Okay, number 3 is going to be make decisions in advance. So this is all about planning, folks. So, those little things that I was talking about, like what you're wearing is a choice that you're making and adding to the mental load in your day, because you only have so much brain power in a day, right? And thinking and wondering about that is going to add to just the levels of everything. So things like picking out your clothes ahead of time, things like planning out, sitting down and doing a whole plan for lunches, doing a whole plan for dinners, anything that you can knock out of the way to make that question go away. Literally, the simple act of planning takes away this time and energy that you might spend later on things. So there's all kinds of little things that you can do with this. And it really depends on what aspect of your life is something that's really stressful to you and what is taking a toll. So if it's like we talked about morning routines not too long ago, if it's something in the morning that's taking a toll, like finding your kid's socks, or is it your kid deciding what they're going to wear? Is it doing the coffee in the morning? Like, set the coffee up at night. Just these little, tiny, small things that you can do ahead is going to be so important. Prepping food, prepping dinners. Even doing something as simple as saying, okay, I'm going to plan ahead what tasks I'm going to do what day can be helpful, because then you're not running with your big list. Again, you're running on a smaller list. So literally as much planning as you can do beforehand for things is going to be helpful. Okay, another big tip I have is declutter your home. Now look, I'm not a minimalist, as you can probably tell by the clutter. But I am a person who firmly believes that the less things you have in your home, the less things you have to actually clean and pick up and think about. So, that especially, I feel like as moms, feeling overwhelmed and stressed, is a lot of it has to do with how clean our house is. And while having a clean house is not something that is like vitally important, let's be honest. Okay, I will say your house should be hygienically clean. Having a picked up house is not as important as we make it out to be. But it's still a stressor, right? Regardless of whether you believe that it's okay or not to have a messy house. I think it's fine if you guys could see the mess that we are in right now, but it is hygienically clean. It's just mess. The big thing is how your home makes you feel. So you should feel happy and comfortable and relaxed in your home, right? That's how I would like to feel in my home anyways. When you feel overwhelmed and stressed every time you look at your home, then that's not helpful. It adds to your list of to-dos. So decluttering your home little by little, one room at a time. Don't stress like hardcore over this. Don't add to your stress, Lord. But making those small changes can make it way easier on you to do the pickup at the end of the day, the cleaning that you need to do, all that stuff. And it just makes a lot of little things in your day easier. You'll have less dishes. You'll have less toys. You'll have less things to wash in the washing machine. Like, it's a compounding thing. So getting rid of stuff is a great idea when you're overwhelmed. And while it's hard to start with at first, I find that once you get started with the whole decluttering thing, like, it just rolls. It does You can really get going. Um, it's always easier to when you're dealing with other people's clutter. Make sure to get them on board. Talk to your kids. Maybe tell them, like, okay, we're going to give this away to somebody, not that we're throwing this away. Things like that that makes them more comfortable with getting rid of things. And quite honestly, if you have to, my recommendation would be is just, especially if they're younger, to sneak it out while they're asleep, or they're gone. Um, because that's just what you got to do. I've got a 3-year-old who, yes, I'm absolutely going to clean things out while he's gone. My 6-year-old, on the other hand, I probably shouldn't do that with, because she is old enough to like deal with this and like work with me on it. Now, there may be some things that mommy has to go back and pick up and take away later if she can't get rid of them, when they're really not needed. But this is my opinion anyways, is like, do what you gotta do, mama, right? Do what you gotta do to be the best mom you can. And if it means sneaking a toy out, it's okay to sneak a toy out. And don't feel guilty for giving it away. Like, just because somebody bought it for you does not mean you have to keep it. On top of that, when you come up on things like birthdays and Christmas and stuff like that, when you're getting a ton of stuff coming into your house and it's very stressful, maybe ask ahead of time, hey, we would love to do experiences this year. Can you give them a gift card to this or that? And make it clear that, like, while you love them and you love the gifts, you want to keep things out of your home because it's making it hard for you to manage. And that brings us to our last tip, but maybe one of the most important tips, and that is to take time for yourself. Okay, I know this sounds like the most impossible thing when you are overwhelmed and on the verge of a burnout and you have this massive mental load. Like, you're probably screaming at me like, Rachel, the last thing I do is to take a break. But let me tell you, the first thing you need to do is take a break. Because when we get so overwhelmed and our mental load is high, we need to take those breaks and reset ourselves so that we can be a functional human, so that we can be a calm and loving mother, so we can be all those things we need to be to function well. And I know you're probably thinking like, well, I don't have time. There is no time for that. It's not something that you feel like you can even like fit into your day anywhere. I am here to tell you to schedule it in as a highly important thing. Schedule it in like it's a deadline that you have to meet, like it's an appointment that you have set and cannot miss. Because taking time for yourself and unplugging and just like chilling as a mom is so important. Because it lets you be you for a little while. You can like charge up. You cannot keep pouring from an empty cup, mama. I know you've probably heard this other places, and that's okay. I'll just keep screaming it from the rooftops. Is that you give so much of yourself all day long to all kinds of other people. You need to take time for yourself. And that is going to make you a better mom. It's going to make you a happier person. And overall, it will help you be more productive. Taking that 30 minutes to an hour, even if it's just that is going to make you so much more productive the whole next day. I usually do mine at night. You can chill out in the mornings. It's whenever you want to do it. But it actually just gives you time to unwind, and you can actually focus later on other things. How many times when you have been overwhelmed and you just go, and you burn out to the point where you physically can't go anymore? Because if you don't stop to take time for yourself and to unwind and to chill and to give yourself a little break, your body will stop for you. Whether it's in the form of getting sick or just being so dead tired you can't get out of bed, or just your brain not functioning, like, it will stop. Whether you like it or not. And I'm sure we've all hit those times where your body finally says, funny, we're not doing this right now. And quite honestly, I think that's probably why I got sick last week, as I kept pushing and pushing, be like, no, You don't need to stop right now. I've got too many things to do. I had too many things for work to do. I had too many things for the kids to do. I had too many cabinets to paint. And then I got sick. So I firmly believe that this like ritual and like really strict rule of taking time for yourself is so incredibly important, because it's the one way that you are going to be able to keep your mental health while like dealing with the overwhelm. Also, really pay attention to what you're doing in this you time. So maybe it's your you time is like a devotion. Maybe it's reading a book. Maybe it's watching a TV show. Maybe for me, I love to read. I love to read my Bible. I love to read books. I love to garden. I craft sometimes when my craft stuff isn't all in boxes. But I have found that some things refill me more than other things. So I found that anytime that I was just literally laying in bed and scrolling my phone all night or watching a TV show, I was not like filling myself back up. And it's so funny. It took me a while to realize that even though I was taking that me time and I was doing the work that I felt like I needed to be doing, I didn't feel like refilled and refreshed. And something was so draining about scrolling social media and just looking at my phone the whole time. And it wasn't that time that I needed it to be. So I've really learned, for me anyways, that doing something slightly productive actually is my refill thing. So it might be gardening. It might be crafting. It might be reading. There's all kinds of options. But I really think about what you do with your time and really like try and hone in on what actually makes you feel refreshed, because that is important. We have come to the part of the podcast where we're going to be talking about our productivity tip of the week. This is something we decided to start doing a couple weeks ago, and this is the first official tip, and I'm really excited to share it with you. So this week I was folding laundry and I decided I wanted to do a face mask, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. My face mask needs to last for 10 minutes, and then I can just fold laundry for 10 minutes. It's a perfect timer method. So here's the thing. If you want to really double up on some productivity, pair some treatments, some hair treatments, masks, serums, whatever you like to do. Pair those with tasks you don't like. I do not like to fold laundry, but man, I have decided that now laundry is going to be I get to treat myself time, because that's not something that I usually sit down and take time to do very often. So now I'm excited to go and do laundry, because I'm going to do my face mask, or I'm going to do my hair mask, or whatever I want to do. And it's going to be great. So that's a little hack to kind of make that task a little bit better, a little bit more fun. Definitely let me know if you try it out. And definitely send in your productivity hacks that you have, and maybe I'll talk about them on the show. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Mama Gets It Done podcast, and give yourself a little bit of grace and a whole lot of coffee this week. Bye.